Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Hitting the Field podcast, our mock draft 3.0. This time featuring trades. Yes, that's right. We have trades in our mock drafts this time around. It's your host, Jeremy Brener here, and we have got a lot in store with the coronavirus still rearing its ugly head. Not a whole lot of sports to talk about, but the NFL draft is still this month. It's this month, guys. It's April 3rd today. We are just 20 days away from the first round of the NFL draft, which we'll be mocking today. And I can't do this alone, obviously, a large task like this. So I've got some co-pilots here with me today. First up, Mr. Chris Wolf. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing good. And not liking this stay-home order. I mean, it's kind of like annoying, but I love that we get to talk about the NFL draft. I love that we will have a sporting event this month.
It's
like
a stay-at-home order, so you can record more episodes of the Hitting the Field podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we have Mr. Okelo Pena. Okelo, how's it going?
Jeremy, feeling pretty good today. Obviously, just like Chris, it stinks to be at home, but I'm at least glad that the NFL draft is right around the horizon since there's nothing else really in sports going on. Just excited to talk about the draft and just get away from it all, being cooped up.
Absolutely. So, today we're doing this a little bit differently than we've done the previous ones. The last two times that we have come together to discuss a mock draft, we've given everyone in Hitting the Field a chance to fill out a mock draft, and this time we did that as well. But this time, instead of creating a collective mock draft, we're just going to talk about our individual mock drafts because a lot of them are very different. We have a lot of trades and such that go about, so we're just going to, Chris and Okelo and I have decided to put our mock draft to the flames and have people roast us for it. So, with that being said, the first two picks in each of our mock drafts are the same. It is Joe Burrow, Chase Young. Is there any chance that you guys see anybody try? Because there were rumors about Miami possibly wanting the number one pick. Do you think that Cincinnati and Washington are going to let go of those top two picks?
I don't. As of right now, I would not assume so. The only change, to be honest, in my opinion, the only change I would see is maybe the Redskins taking Tua number 2 instead of Chase Young. That'd be my only different thing, because now that the reports have come out that Tua could play today if he needed to, and he's like 100%, and the Redskins said the reports say the Redskins will look at quarterbacks. Like, it's not just Chase Young. It's not a foregone conclusion that Chase Young is their pick. They would look at a Tua potentially. So maybe knowing that he's healthy, maybe Ron Rivera wants to have him, Tua, as his quarterback, not Dwayne Haskins.
I don't see really necessarily any change, but to back up Chris's point, knowing last year what had happened with Kyler Murray, thinking that, for example, Josh Rosen was supposed to be the quarterback, but then they eventually made their move. Anything is fair game, but to me, I don't feel the need to draft another quarterback when you already drafted another one. That's kind of like wasting your picks. I think for right now, I don't see one or two changing. I think the Bengals are locked in on Joe Burrow, despite there's been rumors. But I think when you're locked into the first two picks, it's really hard to try to move down or try to get anything more or less of that value when you have top prospects in those top two selections.
Yeah, I think that what you're going to see in this draft is teams that don't need to take risks won't take risks. I think you're going to see very little. I think if teams are confident in the player that they want, they're going to go out and get it. Because with very little chance to interview people face to face, and with the chance of possibly no OTAs, and not being able to see these prospects come in until end of the summer, maybe even training camp, that is going to really shake up how teams are going to do this draft. And I think teams need to just bank on their scouting and the combine to really make the pick that they want to make. So I don't know if you're going to see Washington go for a quarterback. I think that's part of the reason why they went and they traded for Kyle Allen, who was with Ron Rivera in Carolina. But I just think that if you want a player, you go out and you get that player because you're confident in that player. I don't think you're going to see a lot of teams taking a whole lot of risks this draft.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean it's not going to be very exciting because at the number 3 pick, all three of us say that the Lions are going to trade back. Now, It depends. Now, Chris, I'm going to have you explain who you have at your number 3.
Well, what I did was I had the Lions trade back to number 6 with the Chargers, and the Chargers move up to number 3. So I had the Chargers trade their 2nd and a 4th and their 6th to move up to number 3 to draft Justin Herbert. And the reason why I say that is not because Justin Herbert is the second best quarterback in this draft class. I think Justin Herbert has been on the Chargers. I think he's been on more of the Chargers' radar as they drafted a quarterback if there has been a quarterback that they're going to take. And I just think they like him as in their system, maybe rather than like a Tua or a Jordan Love. So that's my understanding behind it. And for the Lions, I had them moving back. They pick up, and it helps the Lions too. They get to pick their guy because I don't think Jeff Okudah is going to get picked by anyone in the top 5 right now. So they can move back, pay Jeff Okudah a little less on the salary, and pick up 2 picks in like mid rounds, and that would be a win for them. And it also could be a win for the Chargers because who knows what a Miami is gonna do? Who knows if they're gonna draft Tua or Herbert or Love? We don't know because Tua didn't have a great meeting with the Dolphins, so maybe they could have leaned more toward Herbert. They may be a little nervous, trade up to be safe potentially and get their guy.
Yeah, that number 3 pick is very valuable because, like you mentioned, Chris, it could go either way. You're picking number 3 because you don't want another team to go and get the guy that you might get. If you trade up to 3, that ensures that you're going to get the quarterback that you want outside of Joe Burrow. Mm-hmm. But Okelo, who's going to trade up to number 3? Is it going to be the Chargers? Is it going to be someone else?
I think it's going to be the Miami Dolphins. I know Chris mentioned that the meeting with Tua didn't go well and it's not set in stone, but to be honest, when I'm looking at the rest of the quarterback prospects, Joe Burrow, number 1, Tua Tagovailoa, I think Tua compared to a Justin Herbert or a Jordan Love, I think he's a guaranteed type player. He's ready to play right now. I just feel like the Dolphins are going to push for a quarterback. I know Chris mentioned that the Chargers have their eyes on Justin Herbert, maybe Jordan Love in the mix. I feel like that could change potentially. I'm not sure if it's set in stone if they want to go with Tyrod Taylor or, for example, because Cam Newton's still available in free agency. I'm not too particularly sure, but I think the Dolphins are going to draft up to that spot. And the Lions, Jeff Okudah is going to dip down a little bit. It's not really a high market for cornerbacks, especially that high as a pick. So I just like Miami's chances to move up in the draft, get to that number 3 spot, and get the guy that they want as their franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's what I think is also going to happen. I'm agreeing with Okelo here. I just think that what Miami is looking to do, they have Ryan Fitzpatrick. They have a guy that can start this year. I don't think they're necessarily expecting Tua to start this year, but I do think that Tua's ceiling is perceived to be higher than Justin Herbert's, which is why I think Miami is willing to go there and get him as opposed to Herbert. Now, I think Herbert's a safer pick for now, but down the line in the future, Tua has more potential. Granted, also Tua's more bust. He's more like boomer bust than Herbert is. But
I look at Tua as like a combination of like Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson. He could have a Russell Wilson type career, but he could also have an Andrew Luck type career, and it ends in 7 seasons because of injuries. But has all the talent.
I mean, would you rather have Andrew Luck or Ryan Tannehill? That's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is weird because Ryan Tannehill is still playing. he's essentially accomplished just as much as Andrew Luck in a way because they both have played in one AFC championship. They both have gotten as far as each other.
Crazy world we live in.
But I just look at the situation as Jeremy mentioned. I mean, having Ryan Fitzpatrick there, you have a veteran quarterback who's been around the ropes. And especially I think the time behind Ryan can give Tua that time to heal, in addition to the time that we're going through right now. But in terms of comparison, Chris, you mentioned though more of a Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck. I kind of look at Tua a little bit more as like the Drew Brees in terms of the cannon of the arm that he possesses, his vision down the field. I think that the Dolphins are going to probably get the quarterback that they wish they got in free agency once upon a time ago. And I just think that Tua is going to be in the perfect situation in Miami.
I think that at the end of the day, regardless of who actually trades up, both of the teams are going to get the guy that they want. But one of them does need to trade up because there is that, it's kind of like a couple years ago in 2017 when the Niners held the second pick and the Bears held the third pick. And the Niners, they weren't going to take Mitch Trubisky, but there was always that thought in the back of their head. Are they going to?
Yeah.
And even though they weren't, projected to take a quarterback, the Bears made that trade so that they could have the absolute. They had no doubt whatsoever that they were going to get the guy that they got. Now, down the line, both Okelo and I believe that Justin Herbert will eventually become part of the Chargers. It's just a matter of when. It's not necessarily a matter of if.
Yeah, and that was why I made my trade with the Chargers because I think there's more uncertainty with the Dolphins than the Chargers, in my opinion.
Because the Dolphins currently hold the higher pick.
They have the higher pick, and who knows who they're going to take? No one has really said who they're going to take. There's no clear-cut favorite. Herbert has already met with he's met with the Chargers already, and Herbert was actually able to have his pro day. He did have a pro day at Oregon. So
that is true.
He did get to have pro day and combine. So he got a little more. He's had the most tape. People have been able to watch him a little more than any of the others.
But my question is this, though. I mean, even though free agency is technically wind down, we still have some quarterbacks that are available. As of right now, Tyrod Taylor is the starter. So even though the Chargers may potentially, go forward with Justin Herbert, could Cam Newton potentially be the guy that they go after? Because I'm personally thinking if I was Los Angeles right now. If Cam Newton's available, why not maybe take a risk on him, even though I probably will draft a quarterback or maybe look at another skill position that I can help with?
Because they would have done it by now.
Yeah. It's the fact that they haven't gotten – and the fact that they haven't added, any other quarterback. They got rid of – they let Phillip Rivers walk, and they haven't done anything.
They've publicly said that Tyrod's the guy. Tyrod has publicly come out and said he's ready to be a starter. It's making it seem like Tyrod's going to start this season up until similar to how he was with Baker Mayfield. Now, how long does he hold on to the starting spot? That depends on how he does in the season. But I think that's what the Chargers' game plan is to get a guy at the top of the draft and then have him play behind Tyrod Taylor because there's going to be a limited offseason for whomever they take.
This kind of reminds me a little bit of the Giants last year.
A little
drafting
bit.
somebody. Drafting someone like Daniel Jones that high he has similar questions to Justin Herbert. Has all the attributes physically, but it's do you really think he's that good? They thought the Giants think that they had their guy, and they do as of right now. Eli Manning played a couple of weeks for a month, and then they weren't doing well, so benched, put Daniel Jones in. I think Tyrod Taylor will play. I don't know if he'll play the whole season because I've always thought quarterbacks learn better when they are thrown into action instead of watching a lot. I think you learn more. You learn more when you're in action rather than on the sideline.
I just feel though, Chris, I do agree. There is a bit of a growth that you do when you play because you experience, of course, what you did right when you win, and of course what you did wrong with what you lose. But to me, what it depends, in my opinion, on who is the starter that's in front of you because from who you learn from can develop into the quarterback that you become. And having a guy like Tyrod Taylor, of course, another journeyman experience, and of course what the success happened after he got hurt. Baker Mayfield took over. There's still I think a good amount that you can learn, even though that you're behind on the second team learning, getting your reps in with the other second team. So I just think you're right though. Tyrod won't necessarily play the whole season, but I just feel like it'll only turn depending on how the Chargers want to ride out the season. If they're not doing too good from the start, then okay, player. If they're making that playoff push, do you want to risk it?
All right, so let's move on to the fourth pick now, where the Giants are on the clock. Do you guys think, for me, the Giants here, they're at number 4. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to trade out of it because I feel like there's really only the Chargers and the Dolphins competing for a quarterback after Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's going to be many other teams that are going to try to trade up from the mid-round picks or the middle picks in the first round. So the Giants here, their best option is to stay at 4. Who do they get? Okelo, I'll start with you.
Jedrick Willis out of Alabama. I look at the Giants with their offseason needs, and to help Daniel Jones, you need to solidify that offensive line, and it's really hard to solidify your franchise quarterback if he doesn't have that help. I think Jedrick Willis adds to their offensive line. It gives a little bit of more open space to help with Saquon Barkley running the football. The Giants definitely need offensive line help for whoever knows for how long, even when Eli was playing. So I think they go with Jedrick Willis at 4. He's the best offensive tackle in the draft, and I think they're going to get great help with him to help be Daniel Jones' bodyguard.
Chris, do you agree with that?
I have them getting Isaiah Simmons because their defense has been not good for a while. It's been a really bad defense for a while. And getting a guy like Isaiah Simmons that can play virtually any position on the defense. He virtually play any position on that defense at a pretty high level. He's best at the linebacker position, but he can play in the secondary. He can pass rush. He can do pass break. He could play coverage. He is all around. I think all around could be the best defensive player in the draft. I think he could surpass Chase Young at some point. Maybe not in the near future, but I think when both careers are said and done, I think Isaiah Simmons could end up being the best defensive player in this draft.
That's a bold statement right there.
He does have a pretty good. I think if I look at maybe past linebackers in every draft, I mean Isaiah Simmons does technically. He sparks me a little bit of that. If I'm gonna go old school, a kind of like a Lawrence Taylor type, where he could just play all around and he can make those impact plays.
Lawrence Taylor,
I mean,
New York Giants. Isaiah Simmons, New York Giants.
I'm saying, Jeremy, as much as I would like to think it, I feel like, what do you want to solidify more? Your cornerstone on offense, or do you want to get to defense? I think the Giants can maybe still maybe look for that maybe somewhere else, but I think the focus is on what do we have to do to make Daniel Jones better in year 2. So I think they have to go with offense in order for that to make that happen.
Yeah, I see that point, but also I feel like when a generational talent like Isaiah Simmons is on the board at 4, you cannot pass up. Just like they did 2 years ago when Saquon Barkley was on the board, when they really needed a quarterback, but they had the best player in the draft in Saquon right there at 2. So, to me, I think they go Isaiah Simmons here. I think that they can address the tackles in this draft. They can get one later. They can't get Isaiah Simmons later. And the edge rushers in this draft, I mean, Isaiah Simmons, like Chris said, can play anywhere. I think that if you can get Isaiah Simmons, you have James Bradbury, who you added in the offseason. You added Blake Martinez. You're adding pieces on that defense that can help you. If you get Isaiah Simmons, that only elevates that defense even more. And I think that Jedrick Wills is going to make a really good player in the league too. And if they ended up going with Jedrick Wills, I don't think that'd be a bad pick. I just think that they might be kicking themselves when they realize that they let go Isaiah Simmons. So I'm going to go with Isaiah Simmons here at number 4. I just think that you can't pass him up. I think the other 3 teams, it makes sense for them to pass him up just because all 3 of those guys, Joe, Burrow, Jace Young, Tua, all have their respective reasons as to why they fit with the teams that they're going to. Isaiah Simmons is the best player in this draft, though, and he goes best player available, number 4, to the Giants.
And also, this is a really deep offensive line draft. I think it's a pretty good offensive line draft. And there's a team like the Niners at 31 where they potentially want to trade back and get more picks because they have limited picks. So a team like the Giants can move it back into the first round late and maybe draft somebody.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the next portion of the draft, we all go Jeff Okudah going to the Lions. Okelo and I have him at number 5. Chris at number 6. Jeff Okudah to the Lions almost seems perfect given the fact that Darius Slay is no longer with the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that was like they've gotten rid of Quandre Diggs and Slay, traded both of them in less than like 8 months. So.
And just if a good Desmond Trufant is healthy, I think, with Jeffrey Okudah in their secondary as well, who knows the possibilities. I think Desmond Trufant is a great corner. Like I said, if he stays healthy, he's a pretty top 10 corner in my opinion. So I think, to have a young guy come in like Jeffrey Okudah, who's been a great guy, I think it fits into the 4-3 defensive scheme. It'll be perfect.
Yeah, I think I think Trufant can make a good CB2. I'm not as high on Trufant as you are, Okelo, because, I mean, Atlanta cut him for a reason. He's not the player that he once was with the Falcons. Now he's with the Lions. I thought it was a nice replacement, but Okudah would be an upgrade, and they need corner help. It's a perfect fit. Okudah should be plug and play, just exactly where Darius Slay was last year, and he could be there for hopefully a long time. So Okudah going to the Lions, 5 and 6. Now the Carolina Panthers are up at number 7. Okay, look who you got.
Well, I know we had a consensus with Isaiah Simmons going to the Giants, but I had him at number 7 because the loss of Luke Kuechly to the Panthers was extremely crucial to them because of the fact that he retired so early. So even though Isaiah Simmons was the best player on the board, which I said the Giants could use offensive help, I think for Matt Rule, brand new head coach, even though he's more of the offensive side of the ball, I think you get a guy like Isaiah Simmons to upgrade a little bit that defense that's been hurt a little bit by injuries and, of course, some players walking away. So for me personally, Isaiah Simmons, I think, drops a little bit, but I think the situation couldn't be more fitting for him in Carolina for him to become that new middle linebacker in their history.
Carolina had so many injuries so many losses on their defense. Not just Luke Kuechly. They lost their top corner, James Bradbury. They lost Mario Addison. Vernon Butler's gone. They lost a good amount of people. And that defense might give up 30 points in 10 or more games this season. It's not a good defense. So They need to go defense here. Chris, what do you think?
I have Derek Brown.
Yeah, so do I.
Because I think they've lost more up front than they have in the secondary, and I think they need somebody, a big body like Derek Brown. They can get after the quarterback. He's athletic, even at over 300 plus pounds. He's athletic. He can just get through pretty much any offensive line. He's a run stopper. He can get after the quarterback. He could do a lot of things. He can do pretty much everything up front. They need someone like that to have that dominance, so they can get after quarterbacks, and that will help a struggling secondary. Having a good pass rush helps a struggling secondary.
He would be, in my opinion, the replacement for Gerald McCoy. who's now with
Yeah.
Dallas. So I think Isaiah Simmons is a perfect fit in Carolina too. I think Isaiah Simmons, wherever he would go, would be a good fit. Because you can put him anywhere, and especially considering Carolina lost Luke Kuechly, makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
You can put him in the middle linebacker. You can fill in exactly where Luke Kuechly left off. But Derek Brown also makes a lot of sense because he does fill in that gap. He stuffs the run. Something that Carolina is going to need to do a lot of this season, just because they're going to be, in my opinion, the offense is going to be fine. I really think that Christian McCaffrey is going to be back to where he was. I think that the addition of Robbie Anderson is going to really help out Teddy Bridgewater. I think that was a really nice pickup that they made. They really focused in free agency on offense. Now it's time for them to focus on their defense. And having Derek Brown or Isaiah Simmons would really help there. I do think that if Isaiah Simmons were to fall to 7 somehow, that you absolutely have to take him. But considering he already was taken earlier in the draft, he goes to number 4, Derek Brown, and number 7. Okelo, but you don't have Derek Brown very far from number 7. You have him number 8, correct?
Right, I have him going to the Cardinals because the Cardinals are a team that have pretty much their linebacking core. They have a pretty good secondary with Patrick Peters, but they need somebody more in the front. And I feel like Derek Brown would fit in right with it. Their defense, I think, is starting to get there a little bit, and I feel like Derek Brown fits in right with what Cliff Kingsbury's defense would want to do. So I have Derek Brown going number 8 because I just feel like, again, it's a perfect fit for that defense that just needs that one little extra piece in the front to try to help create more pressure on the quarterback. So Derek Brown, to me, goes to number 8, fits in with the whole transition going on in Arizona.
Fair enough. Number 8, though, Chris, are you going offense or defense here?
I'm going O-line. I'm going Tristan Wirfs because I was torn, before free agency started, I was torn between maybe a receiver or an offensive lineman, but because now the Cardinals traded for one of the best receivers in the league in DeAndre Hopkins, I was like, I think it's a no-brainer. You need to protect Kyler Murray a little more because he got hit a lot last year. I mean, he's only 5'10", maybe 5'10", a small guy. You need to protect him a little more. I think their defense is solid. I mean, they're solid and they're decent in the secondary. They got some decent linebackers. Chandler Jones is still there. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league.
You forget about him.
Probably top 5 pass rusher in the league. He's been he's really good. So I think they are good enough up there where they can maybe sign people in free agency to fill voids right there, and then they can focus on protecting your franchise quarterback because they have weapons. Kenyon Drake at running back. He was very good in that system last year. DeAndre Hopkins, a top 3 wide receiver. Larry Fitzgerald, a Hall of Famer. I mean, Christian Kirk, a nice young wide receiver that will probably go into the number 2 spot when Fitzgerald retires. So you've got weapons all around Kyler Murray. You just need to be able to protect them. And that's why I'm going to take one of the most athletic offensive linemen. He fits that type of system, a more fast tempo system.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Tristan Wirfs does go to the Cardinals in my mock as well. I think that athleticism is what sets him apart from Jedrick Wills. I don't think that Jedrick Wills is a bad pick. I think he's actually, in my opinion, the difference between Wills and Wirfs is not enough for me to pick one over the other. I just think that Wirfs is a better fit in Arizona's scheme versus Cleveland. So Tristan Wirfs is going number 8 for me to the Cardinals. But Okelo, yet again, you're not very far from where we are.
Right. It just feels like in one slot after the other. I had the Jaguars taking Tristan Wirfs because they're a team that desperately needs offensive line help, especially now that Gardner Minshew is entrusted as your starter. I think that the Jaguars need offensive line help as much as they can get. They have decent of enough weapons. DJ Chark at wide receiver, Leonard Fournette, forbidding that he stays healthy, and I think gets a good offensive line to clear the path for him. He has the opportunity to really get back to Leonard Fournette, rookie 2017. Offensive line is where the Jaguars need help. That's why I had Tristan Wirfs going to Duval. And I think in Doug Marone's system, because you guys mentioned flitting in with Cliff Kingsbury, it's just, to be honest, Wirfs hasn't, I don't think, competed against or even know how to be a offensive line in the air raid offense. I think if he goes to Jacksonville, it's more pro style. It would fit him just like how he did with Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. That's why I saw him going to Jacksonville at number 9.
Yeah. I think Wirfs makes a lot of sense either way. He's another guy that's going to be starting week 1, regardless of where he ends up, unless he gets injured, to me. So I think that's a good fit for him in Jacksonville. I like that. I like that pick that you have there. But Chris, obviously you can't take Tristan Wirfs at number 9. So who did you go with?
I went with, finally, we have a wide receiver coming off the board. I have Jerry Jeudy going to the Jags because now that you know who your starter is, you need some weapons. Because other than DJ Chark, you don't have a lot of any weapons for him to throw, for a Gardner Minshew to throw to. So getting a guy like Jerry Jeudy would be big. You can push DJ Chark was a Pro Bowler this year, but I don't see him as like a consistent number one. You can move DJ Chark to number 2, and he can go against number 2 corners. That would be big.
Or Jerry Jeudy could go up against number 2 corners.
That's the thing. One of those two can go up against one of the other can go up against the number 2 corner. I think they would absolutely thrive in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they need offensive line help, but I think they can get that potentially with the second pick, with their second first round pick potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, or they may end up having 3 when it all said and done if they trade Yannick, if they trade him, because that's what they're asking for is a first rounder. So they end up trading him, they could end up with a 3rd one at some point, potentially. Who knows, though?
So I also have Jerry Jeudy going number 9. But it's not going to Jacksonville. It is a trade. A team is going to trade up for Jerry Jeudy. And that team is the San Francisco 49ers.
Really?
I think when they made that trade to get the 13th pick in the draft, they weren't just, they now have options. They are one of the few teams with 2 first-round picks. A team like Jacksonville in a rebuild needs all the help they can get, and it's a simple trade. It's 31 and 13 for 9. So the Jags move down 4 spots, but get another first rounder at the end of the first round. So to me, it's a very simple deal. Maybe they throw in some, late round picks, swap them, but Jerry Jeudy makes a lot of sense for the 49ers. They need a receiver. They need a number 1 receiver, a big target, so it can take away some attention from George Kittle. It can set up the play action game for the Niners, who love to run the football. Emmanuel Sanders, that's a big reason why they got Emmanuel Sanders in the middle of the season, and Emmanuel Sanders no longer with the 49ers. It makes perfect sense, in my opinion, for the Niners to go and get a wide receiver, and why not go out and get the best wide receiver in the draft in Jerry Jeudy? If you have the picks for it, a team that's desperate to get picks, a team that's desperate to win, Jerry Jeudy makes a lot of sense here for the 49ers. Do I think this will happen? I think it's for any of these trades to happen, it's a long shot because it's hard to predict trades. But this is a trade that I could see happen that wouldn't totally surprise me.
I think that's pretty good, Jeremy. It's just I feel like I could understand why the 49ers would make a move and stuff. And obviously they didn't have a lot of cap room this year to maybe go ahead and maybe try to re-sign Emmanuel Sanders or get other receivers. But I feel like that the wide receiver class is so deep that the 49ers can maybe wait to get like the couple wild cards in the draft. at receiver. Like, I think a guy that they could potentially get, if not the first round, even though I see them trading back, I think, Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State would be a
Possible.
great fit for them. He's not only a guy that I think fits the scheme of what Kyle Shanahan wants to run and gives you that number one, but you can also use him in the punt return and special teams. And I think when you have a triple threat like that, it's like, as great as Jerry Jeudy is, I feel like, do the 49ers really want to do that, where they could maybe upgrade more on defense, or maybe just fix a little bit of the holes on maybe the offensive line?
Yeah, I think they just released one of their starting interior linemen, Mike Person. They could certainly use 2 first-round picks. But and this move, I think, would be very anti Niners. I think that it would just usually they go and they stockpile on picks, and they go and they get guys.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
this time, not the case.
They want to go all in because they know that they want to go. I mean, I could see it because they want to go all in because they were right there on the brink of a Super Bowl title last year. So they want to go all in and continue to stay there and stay up there because they have a team like Seattle and Arizona that are Arizona's on the rise. Seattle's right there with them. So it's like they need to make sure that they stay on top.
It will be interesting for me to see John Lynch really go all in, because we know, like, so far with his managerial style, it's very conservative. He's really done a lot in spending free agency. Some have worked, some haven't. So I know that they're a little bit cap strapped right now. So for them to make this move, I would be more surprised if John Lynch would consider doing a little bit more gutsy to win now. But then again, I think anything is possible with the ceiling that the 49ers have.
I think the 49ers also, they overperformed this past season to their expectations. Maybe they were a year or two early from their trajectory. And maybe now that they realize, hey, we're one of the 2-3 best teams in the NFL, let's go try to make a run for it. But yeah, maybe I just wanted to spice up the draft a little bit. But anyway, we'll move on to number 10 now with the Cleveland Browns on the clock.
Cleveland.
And we all have offensive tackle here. Chris and I, we both agree that Jedrick Wills is the pick here. Jedrick Wills went number 4 in Okelo's draft to the Giants. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think if Jedrick Wills falls to number 10, it's a steal for anybody that gets him. He is worthy of a top 10 pick. And the Browns, they got Jack Conklin in the offseason. I think that's a very important get. Jedrick Wills can also slide in and play right away. And right there, you have 2 really good tackles protecting Baker Mayfield, something they desperately needed last season.
That was really bad last year. Browns, Baker Mayfield ran for his life every game just about, and you need to protect franchise quarterbacks, especially since the Browns, you could say, finally scored on a quarterback for once.
Yeah.
You need to protect them.
And I think, though, Nick Chubb is a core essential of their offense too, because with Kevin Stefanski coming in, it's going to create that balance, and Kevin Stefanski likes to run the football. So I think solidifying their offensive line helps, and when you have a really good running back, Nick Chubb, who I think could be a top 5 running back this year. I think maybe he's already in the top 10. I think he could really accelerate, this being his 3rd season. I think that offensive line is where the Browns need to go. And again, to protect Baker Mayfield, and so that he can get to his massive amount of targets, Austin Hooper, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku when he's healthy. So offensive line is where the Browns need to go.
Nick Chubb was like number 2 or number 3 in rushing last season, right?
Yeah, I mean,
right behind Derrick Henry.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. All right, so Okelo, who you got for number 10?
Well, I had Mekhi Becton from Louisville. I think he showed out great in the combine, and I think he's that type of athletic hybrid type offensive tackle that could be essential. I mean, you have sturdy guys like Jack Conklin, who the Browns signed, but I think Mekhi Becton could give them just that little extra edge. I think if they solidify with him, his athleticism. I think he ran one of the fastest times, if I'm not mistaken, for the combine in terms of offensive line. He has speed, quickness, agility. And, and it's very rare that you find an offensive lineman who's not only as fast, but also as physical to the line in front. And I think he fits the style that Kevin Stefanski would want, in terms of wanting to mix in that power running with that style of we're going to throw the ball a little bit, even though we have these weapons. So I think Mekhi Becton is a great fit for the Browns, and I can see him going at number 10. He has a great trajectory.
All right, sounds good. All right, number 11. Number 11, the Jets are on the clock. Okelo, who you got?
Jets need wide receiver help. They got to get Sam Darnold some more targets. Losing Robbie Anderson hurts, so I think the first receiver comes off the board, and it's Jerry Jeudy ganging up to take flight and gain green.
Yeah, I think wide receiver is very important for the Jets, and that is a big reason why I had the Niners trading up here, because teams like the Jets, teams like the Raiders have wide receiver in their minds, and it makes sense for them, and the Jags as well. The Jags also need a wide receiver, so the Niners are able to jump all of these teams to get a wide receiver. For me, though, I think once they realized in this world that I've created for myself that Jerry Jeudy was off the board, they said, okay, we could go get CeeDee Lamb, we could go get Henry Ruggs, but let's continue to strengthen our offensive line just like they had through free agency. They go out and they get Andrew Thomas from Georgia. I think that makes 3 offensive tackles in the last 4 picks for me. 3 tackles in the top 11. They need offensive line help, probably more than anybody, even more than the Browns. They were really poor at that area last year, and they have Le'Veon Bell, and I think that the Jets can style their offense around him, and then they can go and get a receiver in round 2 that can be that guy that they need in Robbie Anderson's place. So for me, Andrew Thomas is necessary for them. They need offensive line help. He can play either side of the line. Andrew Thomas, number 11 to the Jets.
Okay.
Chris, what you got?
It was a little tough because I was going to go offensive lineman, but once Robbie Anderson left for the Panthers, I was like, they don't really have anyone now at wide receiver. So I went the wide receiver route, and I went CeeDee Lamb at number 11.
CeeDee Lamb,
because he's the second best wide receiver in this draft class. He was just the next best receiver. He was just the best receiver available. So I think it was pretty easy for them to go that wide. If you're going since they're going wide receiver, to go that wide receiver. They did sign George Fant in free agency he got him from Seattle. They got him for a 3-year deal. He was used. It was weird because he was used primarily as a extra lineman. He played tight end actually a lot for Seattle. He played they were playing with 6 offensive linemen a lot of the time.
Could that be something that they do here, where they get Andrew Thomas as well?
They could do that because Seattle struggled on offensive line a lot. So they would play 6 offensive linemen. They put George Fant at tight end, so pretty much you're playing a 6-line set. And that's how they had success, running the football. That's how they've had 2,000-yard rushers, 2 straight 1,000-yard rushers.
Could you imagine Le'Veon Bell with 6 offensive line?
You could do that. I think that could be something you could think about.
It would definitely make him turn back the clock to when he was with my Steelers. So I think get as much help as you can get, because the Jets invested a lot of money in Le'Veon Bell, and last year was kind of a down year, to be honest with you, for Le'Veon Bell's sake. So
because he didn't have the offensive line, right?
Well, and also Sam Darnold was seeing ghosts too, Jeremy. That's so that was also part of it.
That's also very true. So CeeDee Lamb goes 11 to the Jets. Okelo, number 12 to the Raiders. What do you
Yeah,
got?
I had CD going to Las Vegas now since I can't say Oakland because I think not only does this is a John Gruden Mike Mayock pick, I feel like it's a classic Al Davis type pick because he fits what CD Lamb fits what the Raiders are. They are a team that likes to go deep. They love speed. They love running right at you. And CD Lamb definitely has that ability to be that deep ball threat guy for Derek Carr. They need wide receiver help so bad. And I think that having CeeDee Lamb there and the way that John Gruden wants to run their offense, hopefully to try to get back more into that passing game, CeeDee Lamb is the quintessential Raiders pick, and he's going to be something special if they get him, if they're fortunate.
Yeah. I also have CeeDee Lamb going to the Raiders. I think that he's the best receiver on the board for them. They have 2 first-round picks, so they can work their way around either one. But CeeDee Lamb going past 12 would be a travesty. So CeeDee Lamb goes here at number 12. But obviously, Chris, you can't take him at 12, so who do you got?
I actually did not go offense. I went defense.
Mm-hmm.
I went on the defensive line. I went Javon Kinlaw at number 12.
Whoa.
And here's why. That they were terrible up front. They were one of the worst teams up front last year. They cannot go after the quarterback. They didn't do anything. So you need someone that is speed and is really good up front, a good defensive lineman. I think he's one of the most underrated players in this draft, to be honest. Kinlaw is one of the most underrated. Not many people are talking about him. And I think this would be a really good pick by them. You can set the tone up front, get the defense a little better, because I think the Raiders have some talent on the receivers. They got some good young players. Because Derek Carr didn't have a bad season last year. Derek Carr actually had a pretty solid season last year with the receivers he had.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't a lot of turnovers.
Yeah, so it's just like, and I just thought they just could not pass rush. Like there were players that had more sacks than that whole team. So it's just like, and they lost one of their better ones. In free agency, that led the team with 7 sacks. He went to Seattle, so he was one of their better pass rushers. He left, so they are very thin up there, and I think that would be a solid pick by them.
Yeah, I agree. I think any team that gets Javon Kinlaw, very similar to Isaiah Simmons, honestly, in terms of just he'll be a good fit regardless of wherever he goes. He's worthy of a top 12 pick for sure. I have him actually falling because of his inability to participate in the combine. That to me is why he falls. But Okelo, you have him going pretty close to number 12, right?
Yeah, I had him going to San Francisco because I think it would just even add more to their defense. I think you get a guy who can create more help for Nick Bosa. You losing Arik Armstead to the Colts. I mean, I think they. Oh, DeForest Buckner, my mistake. I think, they help with Arik Armstead. So you lose a guy like DeForest Buckner, just upgrade another piece to help them. And therefore, I think Javon Kinlaw fits them, San Francisco, very well.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that trade go through with San Francisco and Indy, I was like, this is exactly what they want. Javon Kinlaw would make perfect sense here. Obviously, I have traded this pick on to Jacksonville. So they don't go for Javon Kinlaw here. Although Javon Kinlaw would make a great fit on any team, I think. But I think Jacksonville has other needs, like wide receiver. And I think they go with Henry Ruggs. I think Henry Ruggs is a better fit with DJ Chark than, say, a Jerry Jeudy. I just think that you have that blazing speed that you just go, phew. And with DJ Chark, DJ can run mid routes, and he can play like the middle of the field, whereas Ruggs can play the sidelines. So I have Henry Ruggs going 13 to Jacksonville, and Chris, you have him also going 13, right?
Yep, same pick, different team.
Mm-hmm. And Henry Ruggs makes a lot of sense to go to San Francisco as well.
I think when they traded that DeForest Buckner for the 13th pick, I think they wanted to get a wide. I think they were looking for a wide receiver because yes, you could always get better on the defensive line, but I think losing Emmanuel Sanders was, I think, a little more devastating than losing DeForest Buckner because they still have Nick Bosa, they still got Armstead up front, and they still have other players that are really good. When you look at the San Francisco wide receiving core, take George Kittle out, just look at the wide receivers. You have Debo Samuel, but then it's kind of like iffy after that.
Yeah.
You're kind of like these are almost like role players that played on occasions.
Dante Pettis,
not guys that you
yeah.
can get like
Yeah, it's
1,000
like-
yards. Like, Dante Pettis kind of found himself lost in that place right there. Kendrick Bourne won't get you 1,000 yards; might get you 750 at most. So yeah, they do need a receiver. They will address receiver at some point in this draft. Just depends on when. And I think with their first pick, Henry Ruggs wouldn't be a bad place to go. So now we move to number 14, the Tom Brady Buccaneers, or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, excuse me. So, Chris, who you got for number 14 here?
I got Clavon Chasen.
Yep.
Clavon Chasen, because I don't think, obviously, I think their offensive line is pretty solid. It ranked pretty decently last year, so I think they should be able to improve, just continue to improve the players that they have. Obviously, wide receivers, that's one of the best wide receiving cores in the league, in my opinion. And I look at their defense. Linebacker, maybe, obviously secondary, you could get better in secondary, but obviously up front they're great. I mean, they're great. You got JPP, you got Shaq Barrett on both sides. That's great. I mean, that's really great right there.
Vita Vea.
In Vita Vea. So it's like, but then linebackers, Levante David has had a little bit down the last couple of years. He's been a little down.
Hasn't been at his peak.
I think they need to address the linebacking core a little more, and I think that would be a perfect fit for a guy like Chasen.
Fair. I have mocked Clavon Chasen, I want to say, every single time. Either he was either going to Atlanta or he was going to Tampa. Because for whatever reason, I just remember early on in the draft process that Clavon Chasen had interest with both those teams had interest in Clavon Chasen. It's even possible here that Atlanta trades up to get Clavon Chasen here at 14 with Tampa. Although you rarely see divisional trades, especially with that close. I think Tampa is a very likely destination for Clavon Chasen. Tom Brady is going to make that offense what it is. And the offense will go as far as Tom Brady takes them. They need to address the defense, because the defense is going to be the Achilles heel of this team. And if you have Clavon Chasen on your team, that makes you better up front. And that front seven could be one of the best in football if you add a guy like Clavon Chasen to go with Shaq Barrett, to go with Ndamukong Suh, Vita Vea, JPP.
That is a scary.
It could rank as one of the best. They do have some issues in the secondary, so it wouldn't surprise me if they go corner or if they go safety here. But I think Clavon Chasen is just it's hard to pass up Clavon Chasen at 14 for the Bucs, so that's why I am mocking Chasen here at 14. But Okelo, what do you think?
Well, we all agree the Bucs do need defensive help, but I look more to the secondary because they struggled a lot in the secondary last year. And I mean, they had to cut Vernon Hargraves in the middle of the season because of his lack of hustle. So I had them to draft C.J. Henderson because I think, is it risky going for another UF product? It is, but I like C.J. Henderson. I think he's going to fit Todd Bowles' defensive scheme very well, and it's going to help them on their back end. So I saw C.J. Henderson going to Tampa Bay with the 14th pick.
I like C.J. Henderson there. I think that C.J. Henderson is moving up draft boards, and he could go as high as maybe even the top 10. He's getting there. I think if it weren't for all the teams that really have, I think teams don't really need corners except for maybe Detroit, but Detroit has Jeff Okuda. But I think C.J. Henderson I've seen is someone that's climbing up these draft boards. It wouldn't even surprise me if he goes number 12 to the Raiders. But
That's true.
I think C.J. Henderson makes a lot of sense there. They do need some corner help, so that's a good pick for me. Now we go to number 15. Both these guys have already been taken earlier in drafts. Okelo, who you got for number 15?
Broncos to help out Drew Lock a little more. I had them getting Henry Ruggs to tag team with Cortland Sutton and Noah Fan. I think the Broncos need to refix their and retool their offense now that Drew Lock is their guy. So I think get him another receiver to help, and I think he's going to be on his way to stepping up this year.
Yeah, I think Drew Lock it's a big year for him because if they can go one of two ways. They can either show out and it can be something for real, and I think there's
Mm-hmm.
a chance that could happen more so because of the defense. But
Mm-hmm.
if Drew Lock has a bad year, I don't think he's locked in yet as their franchise quarterback. I think that they need to see a little bit more from him. I think he's proven enough to go into this season as a starter, but he needs to show up a little bit more. And I think that they're going to help him out by getting a tackle for him, and it's Mekhi Becton. The fact, and I think that
Wow,
he
that
goes.
low.
Yeah, he it'd be a steal for him at 15. I think he's just a big dude. And could give Drew Lock that needed protection, right, Chris?
Yes, and also help out Melvin Gordon. You just signed
Yes,
him.
and Philip
Get him a
Lindsay.
better backer.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean they have that team. I could see as more of a running football team now that they got Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay. It could be like they have one of the better 1-2 tandems when it comes to running backs. So that to me makes it seem like you're going to be running the football a little bit more. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that tackle makes a lot of sense for them in this first round.
Okay,
So
I
now
wouldn't agree there. Even though they did get offensive line help in free
they did.
agency, I think
They
they
got
signed Glass now.
Glasgow, yeah, but he's more. I think he's gonna fit more in the interior line. Might even be a center for them next season. But I think that tackle for them makes a lot of sense. So Mekhi Becton, 15 of the Broncos. Let's move on to number 16 now, where the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Lo, who you got?
I got them getting AJ Espinenza. I think he's going to be a huge pass rusher for them. They're going to need defensive help. You have a defensive coach like Dan Quinn. You lose Adrian Claiborne in free agency. So I think that the Falcons need to address their defense. And I think AJ Espinenza, he's going to fit Dan Quinn's system great. I think he's the type of pass rusher who can get to the quarterback. I think he's going to be a steal for the Falcons at number 16.
Yeah, AJ Epinesa was pretty high in the January mock. He went number 11 in the January mock that we had. And then in the February mock, though, he fell all the way to 23 to the
Mm.
Patriots. But this is somewhere kind of right in the middle. I mean, he had a poor combine, and I think that's what had him drop. But Atlanta makes a lot of sense because Atlanta doesn't need an edge rusher. A guy like AJ Epinesa, Clavon Chasen, though that's a big need for them. Chris, what do you think?
That's the same pick I have actually.
Bingo.
I think they are completely Atlanta's completely rebuilding that defense. Like if you've noticed that they are rebuilding that whole defense. They've
Yeah.
gotten rid of Desmond Trufant, got rid of Vic Beasley. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's like they're just gonna reload on defense. I think that'd be a great pick for them. He could replace a guy like Beasley, even though Beasley was more of a linebacker ish. Could play both, but
Mm-hmm.
pass rushing wise, though, can help the pass rush. He was really good at Iowa.
He's like a
He was good
Jadeveon
at Iowa
Clowney
last year.
in terms of he can play on the outside linebacker spot. He can play defensive line. You can put him in either or. I think that AJ Epinesa, though, I think that his combine did hurt him. So I don't know if they pick him this early. I will say this though, Atlanta is I want to say 99.9% going with a defensive player in this first pick.
Mm-hmm.
They have so many needs on that defense. I mean, on offense, like they got 2 offensive linemen last year in the first round. They have they don't need a quarterback. Maybe they go running back here if they really are desperate. But running backs are falling in this draft, so they could easily get one in the second or the third. Cornerback, though, is a position where I think that they can jump and get one of the better corners in this draft, which is why I think C.J. Henderson is mocked here to the Falcons. I think that corner is a huge position of need for them, and with losing Desmond Trufant, they need a guy opposite Oliver. I think that C.J. Henderson could be a guy that you plug and play week 1, and he can start for you right away, and I think they need someone like that. So C.J. Henderson to the Falcons for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Chris.
I like it. Replace Trufant.
Yeah.
Right. Either way, they're going to need defensive help. If they can either address the front edge and the pass rush or address the secondary. Either way, win-win, but I wouldn't mind seeing that pick as well.
Yeah, another team that needs defensive help, the Dallas Cowboys. They went out, they got Gerald McCoy. What do they do with this 17th pick?
Let us see. This is where I actually have C.J. Henderson going. I have C.J. Henderson going to the Cowboys because Byron Jones signed away. He signed with Miami. He signed that huge contract in Miami. I think that was too much money, but I mean, they got he left Dallas. They're in need of a corner, a cover corner. I think that's the best corner available right there. I think that is the biggest flaw of this defense because that D line, that front seven is on paper excellent. Didn't really show a lot last year, but on paper it's an excellent front seven. I think the back end is where they definitely need to get some help because when they didn't get after quarterbacks, they gave up chunks of yards. And I think that would be this would fill that void somewhat.
Yep. I like that pick. I had C.J. Henderson going right before. I could even see, there's a lot of teams here that could go for a corner. Atlanta, Dallas, Vegas, Jacksonville here. There's a lot I could see a team trying to sneak up and trade up here. I didn't officially put one in my mock, but I think that it's important to at least acknowledge that there's a lot of teams. This is where I think you're going to start seeing corners, fall off the board a lot because corner and receiver, they're both really good in this draft, and teams need them more than ever, I think, because the shelf life for corners and receivers is significantly shorter, and teams are going to need to start going after guys like that. So that's where I'm at. But I also have them going corner. I have been getting Christian Fulton from LSU. They need a corner to replace Byron Jones. He's the best cornerback left on the board. Very simply, Christian Fulton makes sense for Dallas at number 17. Okay, what you got?
Well, I had, even though you guys took him off the board early, I had Clavon Chasen. I think Jerry Jones kind of likes a little bit more of the flashy type guys. And their linebacking core, I mean, Sean Lee's been in and out of the lineup. Leighton Vander Esch is good, but, the longevity of this, Jalen Smith as well. I think that, though, his ability to impact the game with his physical and intelligent play, and I think he's a good combination, I think, if you put him up front as well with DeMarcus Lawrence. It'll definitely give a big boost to a Cowboys pass rush that definitely needs it. So I think Clavon Chasen could be good on the outside, and I think Jerry Jones would love to have him on board in Big D.
Yeah, I think Clavon Chasen would also make a really good fit there. They need defensive help, and that's definitely something that can help right away. Let's go to number 18 now. Chris, who you got for number 18 for the Miami Dolphins?
This is a little bit of a drop, just because in my mock draft I didn't have teams as needy for this, but I have Andrew Thomas at 18. That'd be a steal.
Out of Georgia.
No, I have the same thing too, Chris. Dolphins need offensive line help badly, and if you're gonna solidify your future franchise quarterback, you got to get one of the best prospects in Andrew Thomas in offensive line.
Yeah,
I think
I feel like if you could also see here, teams that could use offensive tackles might try to jump up in here in these mid first rounders, and try to go and get an offensive tackle. If Andrew Thomas is still on the board at 18, it's because there's not really a fit for any of those teams in the middle picks. But teams towards the end of the round, Baltimore, Tennessee, teams that might need some offensive line help, Minnesota, they could go jump up, get that guy in the middle round. Could be Andrew Thomas. I had Andrew Thomas going a lot earlier, but I have another wide receiver coming off the board. You got Tua earlier in the draft, but you have to go and get a receiver for him. Justin Jefferson, who's been climbing up boards lately.
Wow.
Jumps up to number 18.
I don't really have him.
I don't think he's the best receiver in this draft, but I think when it comes to all of the receivers left, I think that he is the best fit for Miami's system. I think that just what they need in terms of receivers right now, he's the best one to fit that system. He's just speedy, and that's what they need. Speed.
I mean, it would help, I guess. You got Devontae Parker, Preston Wilson when he comes back. I could see it, Jeremy. Think Miami fans would love you right now because you got triple threats at wide receiver. That wouldn't be a bad pick around at 18.
Yeah, I mean the thing that kind of makes it a little hasty is at 26. Justin Jefferson might still be there at 26, but considering the fact that Las Vegas needs a receiver, Jacksonville needs a receiver possibly, Philly could go receiver, Minnesota could go receiver. New England could even go receiver. Those are all the teams that are picking in between the 18 and 26. So the chance of one of those teams taking their guy is really high. So I could even see teams trying to trade with Miami here to get this pick. I don't know. I think that the chance of Miami taking all three of these picks is very low. I think that they are still hungry for more picks. So I think that they trade out of one of these spots. It could be 18. It could be the 26. It could also be that they trade up to number 3 like they did. They have the picks to do it. So you might as well use them.
When you have a lot of picks in the draft, there's a lot of leverage that you can use. So
exactly.
A team like them, I mean, they have multiple picks. Jags have multiple picks. Raiders have multiple picks. The Vikings now have multiple picks.
There's a lot of teams with multiple picks, and I think that teams are going to want to keep those because, like I said earlier, the more picks you have in that first round, the more chance you have of getting a surefire pick. Because with these picks now, I think what we're going to see in this draft is a big misjudgment of talent because of just how little eyes people have on these prospects. I think you're going to see a lot of busts in this first round. To be honest, I think just guys are not going to pan out. People are going to think they were a good fit, but then it's just not the right fit. I also think we're going to see a lot of undrafted free agents shine in this draft because just teams are going to misjudge players really easily, and these undrafted free agents are going to get a shot. But it's going to take some time for them to get into it just because of the lack of being able to see these people in person. So yeah.
I think
and enough of that tangent, but yeah.
I think to be completely honest with you, this is where you're going to see which teams are actually the best scouting teams. Like this is the year where you know who knows how to draft.
Scouting departments are going to make their money one way or another.
This is going to be a big year for them. Heck, even the analytics experts, like the guys who have them, they're going to need them now more than ever than in previous year's drafts. This draft, you're right, Jeremy, it's a bigger lottery, a bigger crapshoot than anything else that we've ever seen, probably.
Yeah. At number 19, I'm going to go with Javon Kinlaw just because there's no reason he should fall this far. I don't think he's going to fall this far. I think a team will trade up for him. The rule we did make, though, with this draft so that people wouldn't go totally nuts with draft was 6 trades. And I believe I had 6 already. So I think Javon Kinlaw, if he goes past 16, is total craziness. I doubt that'll happen. But he needs to go somewhere. He goes 19 to the Raiders. Chris had him going 12 to the Raiders, and I think it's a really good fit for the Raiders. Do need some help on the defensive line. Javon Kinlaw, one of the better defensive tackles in this draft, makes a lot of sense. But you guys have a different move for the Raiders at 19.
Mm-hmm.
What do y'all think?
I'll start off with my pick because I see Las Vegas getting secondary help, and I think they get the good old next to kin brother-ish type Stephon Diggs's good old Alabama boy Trayvon Diggs. I just feel like it's going to be helpful to their secondary. They need secondary help as much as they can, and John Gruden and Mike Mayock are going to continue to stack up their secondary to help out Jonathan Abrams and company.
I really liked Trayvon Diggs to the Vikings before they traded his brother, and I feel like it'd be kind of slimy. Hey, come play for your old brother's team. I feel like
Right.
Stephon's gonna dog him a little bit because he kind of was on the way out, and I just feel like and similarly I don't think that the fans would really appreciate that pick. I know a couple of years ago the Texans were in need of a quarterback, and they passed on Derek Carr because David Carr is his brother and former Texans bust. So
Right.
I think that Trayvon Diggs anywhere but Minnesota makes a lot of sense for him. Yeah.
I think like a lot of fans who probably burned their Diggs jerseys would probably like try to do it back or want a refund back or something of their old Stephon Diggs jersey.
Maybe. All right, Chris, what do you got at 19?
I had Christian Fulton at 19. I mean, same. They need cornerback help because the defense again, Raiders defense was not that good last year, and that'd be a good fit. It's a good fit with their defense, good physical corner, played against really good wide receivers, played pretty well against the wide receivers at Clemson in the national championship, held them in check. So I think you have a good experienced corner right there. I think he can go in and potentially start week 1.
Yeah, I think if he gets in the right situation, I definitely think he's worthy of a week 1 start. Okelo, I had him at 17. Chris had him at 19. Where do you have Christian Fulton?
I had him in a trade, believe it or not, from the 20th spot, which was originally the Jaguars. I had the Lions trade not only the pick to move up into that 20th slot, but also trade a first round next year in addition with their second round pick to dip back in the draft. And I had Christian Fulton going to Detroit because they're going to need secondary help. And, I think a young tandem.
I'm going to stop you there.
Really?
So they traded a future first and a future second to move back in the first round to take a second cornerback.
Yeah. I know it's risky, but the reason I suggest this is because they're gonna need a lot of help, and I do have high hopes for just Desmond Trufant, but like I said, Jeremy, forbidding he stays healthy, forbidding that he stays healthy, you're going to be depleted with one less corner. I know it's a little bit crazy, but Matt Patricia is going to be in a huge hot seat this year, and him and Bob Quinn need to take a lot of chances. And I think they have to make this move to solidify their secondary with their defense that they already have intact. So they got to get Christian Fulton to come to the Motor City.
I think that's an easy way to get fired, to only focus about one part of your team. And to trade away the future to get the fourth corner in the draft. You just traded 2
top 64 picks.
Well,
to trade up.
I like I said, I know it's risky, but I just have that hunch. This year is a hot seat year for Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia.
I agree with that. I just don't see how you could think that a team is going to take 2 corners in the first 20 picks.
I could see them take an offensive line or potentially, take somebody in the linebacking position, but I just had them right now getting Christian Fulton, and I'd be hard pressed to really think about it.
if you're the Jags and the Lions offer you that trade, you accept that trade immediately because that's an extra first. But I think that Christian Fulton is definitely worth a top 20 pick. I just don't think the Lions would do that. I could see them trading back into the first round. I would see them going a little bit later than that, though. I do have some teams that draft early in the first, come back in and get a second guy, but I don't know. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. It's very strange for a team to go and get two of the same position. It's like when the Timberwolves went out and they got Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn, and before Steph Curry. It just didn't make sense. Because, I mean, yes, you can play two corners, but you also did get Desmond Trufant. And yes, you can play two, possibly three corners. But to get them all in the first round, it's like, okay, you have a good secondary, but what about the rest of your team? Yeah, they need a lot more than just cornerbacks. So maybe they go offensive line, maybe they don't. But fair enough. All right. Chris, who you got?
I had the Jags taking Xavier McKinney. For some secondary help because they've lost. I mean, I know they're corners, but they've lost so much in the secondary. Secondary is not that good right now. I could have said I would have went corner. I had some vague thinking about trading them up. Jag trading slightly up to get like Fulton or Henderson, but I backed off a little bit. I played a little safe with trades because they're really tricky. Though I thought about doing that, but I went with Xavier McKinney. He is one of the best safeties in this draft. Safeties aren't really much of a. I think safety may be the least sought after position in the first round, especially. But I think Xavier McKinney is the best safety in this draft. I think that will help their secondary a little bit. Though they need corners, that probably address in the second round. So that's my standpoint because you lost AJ Boye, you lost Jalen Ramsey last year, so you need to revamp corners. So, but I'm gonna go safety right now.
Yeah, I think safety makes a lot of sense for them as well. The debate though between Xavier McKinney and Grant Delpit, that is where. Yeah, and originally, Grant Delpit was in the lead. And it seems like now Xavier McKinney's climbing up draft boards. I still think Grant Delpit's the best safety. I think he's better than Xavier McKinney, and that's why I have him going at number 20 to Jacksonville. I think that they do need safety help, like you mentioned. They need defensive secondary help, and he makes a lot of sense for them. So I'm going to go with Delpit, number 20, to the Jags. So now we go to number 21, where the Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock. Wide receiver is a big need for them.
Yep.
What do y'all got?
Yeah, Justin Jefferson at 21.
Justin Jefferson at 21.
I think that's a good pick for them. A good, big, strong wide receiver that could help them. He was number 2 at LSU. I think he could legitimately be a number 1 for the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could because Alshon Jeffrey has injury history. They don't have Nelson Aguilar anymore. So it's like they need someone to step up. The JJ Arcega-Whiteside, someone they drafted last year in the mid round.
He hasn't panned out.
I don't know if they're sold on him or not. So I think going with someone like Justin Jefferson that was over 1,000 yards as a number 2 wide receiver. That's weird to say. In college, you could be over 1,000 yards and be a number 2. But I think his draft stock went way up in that college football playoff.
I think it did too.
It did. I mean, the championship game performance. I mean, the instant juke highlight that's going to live on in infamy.
Mm-hmm. I think that, and that's why I had Justin Jefferson as high as 18 because I think that he could continue to be that guy, and I think he could have a really solid career. I'm looking forward to seeing what he has just in store. But another guy that's climbing up draft boards that I think will go in the first round now is TCU wide receiver Jalen Reagor. He's been shooting up draft boards lately, and I think that I think he's a first round talent, and I think you got to use a first round pick to get him. He can play he can play in the slot. He can play outside. He's a guy that, and Philly needs a lot of those guys that can be versatile, that can play in multiple different places on the field. And I think that Jalen Reagor makes a lot of sense for Philly. That's why I have him going number 21.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
On to number. Go ahead.
It. No, I was gonna say, Jeremy. It seems right. I'm with Chris. I think Justin Jefferson's the fit, but either way, whoever the Eagles get, it's gonna be a heck of a ride to help Carson Wentz.
Yep. And they could be in position to be a wide receiver 1 right off the bat, which I think could really help someone's career. So let's move on to number 22. It's Minnesota's first pick in this draft. It's originally Buffalo's pick, but it was traded to Minnesota to help Stephon Diggs move to Western New York. So Minnesota's on the clock. What do you got for us, Okelo?
I had them getting offensive line help. They got to protect Kirk Cousins. Austin Jackson, to me, is going to fit their scheme. It's going to help Kirk Cousins get a little more protection, give Dalvin Cook a little more running room. They need to continue to address offensive line help, so I see Austin Jackson being one of Christian Kirk's many, many protectors.
Yeah, offensive line is a big place for them as well. But another place of need is cornerback. They do need corners. Trey Waynes is no longer with the team. Xavier Rhodes is no longer with the team. It would shock me if they didn't at least invest in a receiver in one of these two, or at least in a corner in one of these two picks. So that's why I, along with Chris, we're agreeing with this pick at number 22. It's another person that's been, climbing up boards lately is Jeff Gladney.
Yep.
Chris, what do you got to say about Jeff Gladney?
We both picked it. I agree with that pick because, when you lose your 2 starting corners, that is a red alert that you need to probably draft one, especially since you really didn't sign much in free agency.
At least one.
Mm-hmm. At least one. You have 2 picks. You pick 2 of the next 4 picks. So one of those you should have your chance at what you want. Especially since one of those is the Patriots, and I would highly doubt they're going to get a corner. So it's like you'll get your choice of what's left, what you want. And I think that was the best available corner from TCU. I know TCU didn't have a great year, but I think they're gonna. I think TCU, and despite a down year, has got generate multiple first round picks.
Yeah, I think they went Trayvon. I think they would go Trayvon Diggs here if they didn't just trade his brother. Could you imagine, though, if they did take Trayvon Diggs with this pick, Stephon Diggs got traded for his brother?
Oh, man. That has to be one of
the first times ever where one brother was traded for the other.
Oh, man. It'll create more in a sibling rivalry when these two play when they get the chance. So,
yep. So number 22, we got Jeff Gladney for me and Chris, and Austin Jackson for Okelo. But now number 23 comes, and it's the New England Patriots. I have selected A.J. Epinesa for them. It remains my pick from the previous mock draft that we did last month. A.J. Epinesa almost, to me, screams Patriots player. He's a guy that underperformed in the combine, so that, he goes to New England and is exactly what people thought of him, which originally was a top 10 talent. He's dropped a little bit since then, but I think can still make a very strong player. And New England's a team that needs some help in the front 7 after losing guys like Kyle Van Noy. So New England, they get A.J. Epinesa from Iowa at number 23.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's interesting.
Y'all have a little more sexier picks here at 23 than I do. So I'll toss it to Chris so that he can discuss his pick.
I've got them getting Jordan Love at 23 because
Jordan Love.
I don't think I mean, I don't think Jarrett Stidham is the future of that team. They signed Brian Hoyer. He's obviously not the future. I just think those are the only two quarterbacks they have on the roster right now. This screams quarterback. I think they draft the quarterback they need. Though I would not be surprised if like Hoyer or Stidham may start the season potentially. But I think Jordan Love will. I think they will draft Jordan Love, and I think he will ultimately be the successor to Tom Brady, the quote unquote successor to him. He'll be the quarterback of the future for them. And I think that in how mock drafts are looking, this would actually be considered a steal. How people are projecting Jordan Love right now, because a lot of people are projecting Jordan Love like in the top 10 pick right now.
Jordan Love's in a very weird spot because, to me, I think he's quarterback 3 or 4, and if he's not taken at quarterback 3, there's a big drop between quarterback 3 and quarterback 4.
It's between 6 and potentially out of the first round, unless like a team like New England.
Exactly, because arguably there's only really 3 teams that need a quarterback this season that don't really have that are expected to draft one early, and that's Cincinnati, Miami, and of course the Chargers. So
unless you're Todd McShay, his mock draft. His newest mock draft has the Jags taking Justin Herbert at 9.
That's another thing. The Jags make a lot of sense to get a quarterback right here, but from what we've seen, the Patriots are at least married to the idea that they can have Jarrett Stidham for this season, and they want to at least see where he's at. But the thing is, if you're in Jordan Love's position, you're QB3, QB4. Next year, you have 2 of possibly the best, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields are going to go 1-2. And, you could use the season and say, hey, we're going to tank the season and we're going to try to go and get one of those guys. And that is probably what Jacksonville's thinking. Because Jacksonville's also in a similar boat than New England, where they feel good about Gardner Minshew. They don't necessarily know 100% if Gardner Minshew's the guy for them moving forward, but they're at least willing to use this season to try to figure out if he is. So if you're going to have a guy like Gardner Minshew, I don't see why you would draft Jordan Love, or if you have a guy like Jarrett Stidham, I don't know why you would draft a guy like Jordan Love in the first round. I feel like Jordan Love is going to go in the second round. I thought about maybe having a team trade up to get him, but at this point, I just don't see a position where I don't see a team that he really fits with to where he'd go in the first round.
Yeah, it's a.
I think the Patriots make a lot of sense for him, but I think that it'd be difficult for me to see them use their first pick to get a quarterback that they weren't planning on starting.
Because they haven't done that, but they have not done that in so long.
Right.
They've done that in so long.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and Okelo, what you got?
Probably. Well, I had the Patriots trading out of the first round, believe it or not, and the team that they made the trades with, and I'm going to shock everybody right here, with the San Francisco 49ers. I think that this is where the 49ers get their first-round pick back in this draft, and they're going to select Grant Delpit out of LSU to help out their secondary, give Richard Sherman a little bit more secondary help and, continue to bolster their defense.
Safety is one of the more important positions of need for the Niners, so I think that this trade makes sense, especially considering they're only 8 picks away from 31. I think that it could very well happen. Safety and Grant Delpit is, in my opinion, the best safety on the board, even over Xavier McKinney, contrary to Chris's opinion. But Grant Delpit, number 23, I think that's I could see that happening. It's not totally out of the realm of possibility.
What did the Patriots get in return for this?
So I had the 49ers obviously traded for the pick. The Patriots, they're going to get the 49ers 2 second-round picks in next year's draft. And I was thinking either a player or potentially another first-round pick in the 2022 draft, believe it or not. 2021, my mistake.
So they don't have to
Wow.
trade 31?
They will trade 31, and I can't wait to tell you guys about who the 49ers make the trade with.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay.
All right. So, number 24, the Saints are on the clock. They need a corner. They need some corner help. Eli Apple is gone. He went to the Raiders. But
now
they
that contract that they weren't able to actually Eli Apple's still a free agent because they were not Raiders and Apple were not able to agree on a contract.
Exactly. So anyway, he's not a Saint anymore. So they need a corner, and they can get an upgrade from Eli Apple in the first round. They get Trayvon Diggs here. It's probably the best corner left on the board where they're at. I go Trayvon Diggs to the Saints here. Give Marshawn Lattimore someone to play opposite him. Makes a lot of sense for me here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think at 24 for the Saints?
Pass rusher, Jeremy. And I know that he hasn't been getting a lot of heat, but I think this is a quintessential Sean Payton, Mickey Loomis type player. I have the Saints selecting at number 24, Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma. I think he can be a guy that, is going to help out their pass rush, add a little more speed. And of course, having him in between the inside or at the mic, he could be a guy that could be a legitimate help for their defense and probably help them, get to the quarterback more because the Saints defense kind of lagged off a little bit in that area in the last 2 seasons, and I think Kenneth Murray is going to be a big help for them.
Yep. Kenneth Murray. What do you think, Chris?
I agree with that. I actually have Kenneth Murray going 24 as well to the Saints. I know they need corner help, but I think they could get that in later rounds potentially because that's actually where I think that'd be good for me in the later round. I think Kenneth Murray would be a good fit for them at linebacker. Linebacker is not really the biggest strength of this team either, so either or. Going corner or linebacker, I think is good either way. I just think you get the better. I just think you get maybe the better player.
Yeah.
At linebacker.
You could get like a Patrick Queen or someone like that at LSU. They could maybe go get like Yeturgos Matos, someone that can help them the pass rush. I like the Kenneth Murray pick though. I think that he's someone that should be coming off the board in the late first round, and the Saints are a good fit for them, and he could start right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So now we go number 25. It's the Vikings' original pick. It's their second pick of the first round, considering they keep the first pick. So we all got wide receiver here, and we all have 3 different wide receivers. So we'll start with Chris as to who he has for number 25.
Man, I guess Minnesota loves TCU right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting another TCU player in Jalen Reagor at number 25.
That'd be pretty cool if they could get the teammates like on the same team in the first round. That'd be pretty dope.
I think it's and to be completely honest with you, I actually think there's a small chance. I think there's a small chance because I think both players are rated that can be rated in a similar area.
Yeah, and they both fit needs that the Vikings need. So
number 2, you need a number 2 receiver. They deemed that they like Adam Thielen more than Stephon Diggs, probably as a player and just attitude wise, both. I think. Especially in relationship with the quarterback, I think was a big thing. The relationship between Stephon Diggs and Kirk Cousins was not that good. I don't think they say it was good, but it didn't seem like it was good. So if he replaces Stephon Diggs, you still have Kyle Rudolph. That gives you a pretty good receiving core for Kirk Cousins to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's kind of weird. Jalen Reagor did not really have a quarterback throwing him a good quarterback throwing him the football
Now I
either
get
at
Kirk
TCU.
Cousins.
Now you have a pretty good quarterback in Kirk Cousins throwing him the football, and he's not the number one receiver like he was at TCU. He'd be the number two, maybe even number three option if you want to say Kyle Rudolph potentially is a little more of an option.
They haven't really featured Kyle Rudolph a whole lot in their passing game as of late. He'll be probably a third option in terms of guy. They'll probably go to Dalvin Cook more often than they go to Jalen Reagor.
Yeah, so I think that will help Jalen Reagor, and he could just thrive as doesn't have to be the number one person. That'll get it, and that's what I think that helps players. It helped a guy like DK Metcalf last year, which he was the number one option at Ole Miss. Now he wasn't really the featured person that's in Seattle, but he still was probably their best weapon potentially.
Yeah,
because you're going up against lower end corners, and so you can show off your skills more against lower corners, and that helps an offense out a lot.
Right. So Jalen Reagor on Chris's mock. Okelo, what you got?
I had the wild card of the wide receiving draft class go into Minnesota. I have Denzel Mims out of Baylor. I think that, as we mentioned, you lose Stephon Diggs, of course, you need to go get help. I love Jalen Reagor. Don't get me wrong. He has a lot of talent, and there's a lot of buzz, but I just feel like the scheme in Mike Zimmer's offense and what the Vikings are looking forward to, I think Denzel Mims has a little bit of that style. I think in the way that Kirk Cousins can connect with receivers in the way that he likes to throw the ball, I think Denzel Mims is going to be the receiver that will be fitting in that Minnesota offense.
Yeah, I think Denzel Mims has a chance to go first round. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I just think that he, like you mentioned, Okelo, is a bit of a wild card. And I think with teams, especially teams that need receivers, they're going to go for more surefire bets in the first round than wild cards or, boom bust guys. That's why, for me, my number 25 is you get the best receiver off the board that's left. That's Laviska Shenault, wide receiver from Colorado. I think putting Laviska Shenault with Adam Thielen is the best combination you could possibly get out of this for the Vikings. I think they can complement each other very well, just similar to how Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen did. I don't think it's going to be exactly like it was with Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, but I think that the two of them are different enough to where they can bounce off of each other really well, and I think that they can benefit from each other. I think that's why Thielen and Diggs worked very well for the last 2-3 years, is because they were able to find ways to make them better with their skill set. And I think that Laviska Shenault can do that with Adam Thielen in the same offense. So that's why I have Laviska Shenault going number 25 here.
I like it. I think that this has a chance to work out a little bit better because I think Laviska Shenault isn't really the number one wide receiver person,
right?
Like Diggs wanted to be. I think Laviska Shenault is kind of like he's a gadget.
Gadget's a great word. That's exactly how I would describe him. He's very much kind of he can do a couple of different things, but he doesn't have to be the number one guy. And that will have to change the offense. I mean, they have a new offensive coordinator, so they're going to need to change their offense a little bit. But I think you mentioned Laviska Shenault. They don't need him to be the best receiver on the field, and he doesn't have to be. He's not built to be a wide receiver one in this league, I don't think. But I think having a really good wide receiver two, as the Vikings know, probably better than most teams, it's a very valuable tool to have because it makes your wide receiver one, which could be Adam Thielen this year, that much better. And they have Dalvin Cook as well. So
Shenault could be Tyreek Hill light.
Ooh,
light.
That's crazy.
Maybe a lower version of Tyreek Hill because he has the same type of speed. He could do the same type of things.
Yeah,
just not as good.
When I look at Laviska Shenault, like in terms of comparisons of receivers, for some odd enough reason, I get more of a comparison of like a Devontae Adams type. I just think like he has a tremendous amount of speed, but I just feel like, he just has like great hands as Devontae Adams and just has more athletic ability that could be more of a receiver in that way.
Yep. All right, so now let's move to number 26, the Dolphins, for the third timer on the clock. Who y'all got?
Receiver T. Higgins to help a little bit and give a little more bolst for Devontae Parker and Tua. It's going to be a great receiving combo, I think, and in the young rebuilding Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I think T. Higgins makes a great pick right here. He's been falling from draft boards lately, which I don't exactly know why. I would love to see him go number 40 to the Texans because I think he'd be a perfect replacement for DeAndre Hopkins because that's kind of the guy that he reminds me of a little bit. Is a little bit DeAndre Hopkins in terms of just his size and his hands and his speed and just the combination of that he's got everything. And I think that he's going to make one team really happy and a lot of teams really sad because I think he could be a really good player in this league. It's really unfortunate that he's dropped a little bit in this draft, but 26, he's a first round talent. He belongs in the first round. I'm very glad that you put him in the first round. So T. Higgins to Miami makes a lot of sense for me. I'm glad to hear that pick. Chris, what you got?
I have DeAndre Swift going at 26 because finally a running back because I think they're in kind of in need of one because I don't think they really have any true number ones on their team.
Jordan Howard is not a true number one.
They don't. Jordan Howard's not. Balaj is not. I mean, they're not. Those aren't true number one running backs. So
right.
I think drafting one right here would be good. And I've heard that the Dolphins love Swift. They love him. Like out of all the running backs, they love Swift. So that's what I've heard reports say. So I think this would be, and he will definitely be available at 26 because I believe there's only about 2 or 3 teams at max that will actually consider a running back in the first round this year.
I've seen a lot of rumors around possibly seeing Tennessee going for a running back, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me at all. And Baltimore as well. Again, don't really see that much of a need for Baltimore to get a running back. They have bigger needs than that. So I think running backs, most of them are going to go in the second round, like Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, the guys that you can put in this season and could possibly go for 1,000 yards. DeAndre Swift is one of those guys. I think Miami would not be a very good fit for him, though, because I don't believe that offensive line is ready yet for a super big, for a running back to have them, to run that offense behind one running back. So to me, I think that I could see Miami going for him. I know Miami would want a running back. They're probably going to draft one. I just don't know if that's going to happen in the first round. Because, like I mentioned earlier, I would be very surprised if Miami kept all 3 of these picks. So I believe they trade this third pick here. And they trade it to Cleveland.
The Browns.
And the Browns get Kenneth Murray out of this deal. Because I think that Kenneth Murray, he's worthy of a first-round pick. The Browns need a linebacker to replace Joe Schobert. They need... And Kenneth Murray makes a lot of sense for them at this pick.
I wouldn't be surprised, Jeremy. I mean, it does sound like a Cleveland Browns move to try to get another first-round pick, so I like it.
I think you're going to see a lot of these teams going in the late first round to try to get back in the first round. And at 27, a team that loves to do that is the Seattle Seahawks, Chris.
And you read my mind. I have Seattle trading the 27th pick to the Kansas City Chiefs. So I have the Chiefs trading up from 32 to 27 to draft Grant Delpit at 27 to help that secondary out because I think that secondary is the weakness of that defense because their front 7 actually is pretty good, but secondary has had struggles at times. I think Grant Delpit would be a great fit to go to team up in that secondary. I think he'd be a great fit for them. And I and really it wasn't a huge trade. All the Chiefs did was trade a fifth rounder to Seattle and traded back.
Yeah.
Just a little trade, not a lot with it. Because I think
Seattle loves to
because
do deals like that just get
and I
them
think
an
it's
extra pick in the late rounds that they can possibly, blossom that player into someone big. They love doing that, which is why I also have them trading out of this pick. I think, though, I don't see them trading into the first round for this pick. I think they trade out of it. And a team that could use a offensive tackle in the first round is the New York Giants.
okay.
And they get, like we mentioned earlier, they need a tackle. And I think someone that makes a lot of sense here for them is Josh Jones out of Houston. I think that I could totally, like, we talked earlier about how they need a tackle to, protect Daniel Jones. This is a perfect guy. You get another Jones right there, and Jones got Jones. So to me, Josh Jones has been climbing up boards lately. He makes a lot of sense here at 27 for the New York Giants.
Wow.
I like that. I like that trade.
Mm-hmm.
I like the trade.
Yeah. Okelo, what you got?
Well, I thought about Seattle trading out of this pick as well, like you, Chris, Jeremy, have thought about. But to be honest, I looked at some of their moves in free agency, and to me, I think that they keep this pick, and I think they draft your two Gross Matos out of Penn State. They're gonna need help with the pass rush. They're not likely gonna sign Jadeveon Clowney. His obviously his price tag is way too high. I think Jadeveon isn't really gonna sign. Yeah, he did, but nobody's really budging because Jadeveon Clowney is like he's good, but he's not like that crucial
he is
pass
taking
rusher.
a little bit off of his price tag. He is taking
It's
off
actually,
like $2 million or so.
It's actually below what Seattle offered him now.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't. But I mean, like he did do help for the Seahawks, but I don't think the impact was necessarily there. And I think that Gross Matos would be a perfect fit under that Ken Norton Jr. defense. And I think that he's going to be their pass rusher of the future if they get him.
I think that Clowney's impact, though, is not what you see in the box score. He is a disruptor. He they don't show he only had 3 or so sacks, but that doesn't count all the times that he forced a quarterback to throw away the football. That doesn't count all the times that he warranted a double team so that a teammate could get a sack.
He had 2 touchdowns this last season.
Yeah. So that's why Clowney is better seen as advertised, or he's better than advertised, in my opinion. And that's as someone who watched him play for the first couple of years of his career. Injuries were a problem in the beginning. They're not as much of a problem now. I don't think, and even though he was injured for the second part of the season, maybe that's part of the reason why Seattle has reservations to sign him.
Right.
I do agree, though, if they don't re-sign Clowney, they will look to replace him in the first 2 or 3 rounds of this draft. Yetur Gross Matos is a great pick here. It makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, I like the pick. What do you got for 28, Okelo?
Well, I saw for the Ravens, because Marshall Yanda retired, that they're going to need a little bit to solidify their offensive line help. And I know that you get that Josh Jones for you was going to be a New York Giant, but I see him going to the Ravens and continuing to help the league MVP Lamar Jackson continue his ascent. So I see from your state, from University of Houston Cougars, for Josh Jones to be in Baltimore.
Yeah, good pick there. They need offensive line help. I don't know if they need it on the tackles. I think they could possibly go in because they have Orlando Brown, they have Ronnie Stanley. They could move inside, get like a Cesar Ruiz maybe, the best interior lineman in the draft. But I actually have them going defense because they did lose a lot of defensive players. Chris, we actually have the same pick here, so do you want to introduce the pick?
Yeah, Patrick Queen at LSU.
Patrick Queen.
Oh,
Hmm.
he's been rising a lot.
He
I've been
has
seeing
been.
in a lot of drafts.
He has been. And he's someone that can really help that pass rush that was depleted in free agency. That they've added pieces to try to help Calais Campbell, getting guys that can fill the void. Um, they did lose Michael Pierce to Minnesota. Maybe they get a defensive tackle here, but I think they kind of ran out of first round defensive tackles to go out and get. But I mean, 28 here, Patrick Queen. Maybe you get him in the early seconds. Maybe you trade back here, but we're sticking to the 6 trade rule, and I think Patrick Queen is a quintessential Ravens pick. But whether or not they actually get him is where they get him is yet to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
now we go 29 to the Titans. Kayla, what you got?
I had Xavier McKinley going this pick for the Titans. I think this is a guy that Mike Vrabel would love to have on his defense. And I think, with the loss of Logan Ryan in their secondary, I think he's a great partner for Kenny Vaccaro and Kevin Byard in that defense. And, who knows how he could have impacted, I think, especially in that secondary for that title game. So I think Mike Vrabel's defense would fit him perfectly, and he can jump in right in, be a week 1 starter.
Yeah. I think that safety is a good... I don't know if safety is a big need for the Titans. I think Xavier McKinney's a great player, and I think he will be a starter for most of his career. But I don't know if Tennessee is the best place for him to go. I think, considering the fact they lost Jack Conklin, they really need a tackle. They really need a tackle badly. Their whole identity was running the football last year, and a big part of that was Jack Conklin. Again, Chris and I, it seems like we agree on a lot of these. We're agreeing once again. We're going with Austin Jackson here out of USC to go tackle here at 29. They need a tackle. It was between Josh Jones and Austin Jackson, depending on who would be who the Giants would trade up to get. Jackson is the leftovers, but that's pretty good for leftovers. It's like Thanksgiving leftovers.
Yep, they're good. They're still good.
Mm-hmm.
They're still good no matter what.
Absolutely.
That's exactly the reason why I picked Austin Jackson. I mean, use Jack Conklin. You need a replacement. You run the football just as much as anybody in the league. Like in the playoffs, what was it? Probably three-fourths of their plays were runs.
Yep.
Exotic smash mouth.
Mm-hmm. It was just you need to make sure that you need to make sure that offensive line is airtight, and filling in that void will help them a lot. And I think that that'll keep. And as long as they run the football, that Tennessee team is gonna be good.
Absolutely. So let's go on to number 30 here. Packers are on the clock. What do you guys got? Y'all got the same pick, so one of y'all gets it.
Laviska
Shenault.
Mm-hmm. I know I've been talking with a little bit with John Whitley about this, obviously he being a big Packers fan. This is just the perfect fit. Aaron Rodgers needs a complement receiver to help with Devontae Adams. He just fits it perfectly.
Yeah. I think Laviska would be the pick here if he was available on my board. He's not. The Vikings, and that's part of the reason why the Vikings take him, is because they know that he's on the Packers' radar. So knowing that they can't get the receiver they want, the Packers trade out of this pick, and they go to the Redskins. Redskins come back into the first round, and they get A.J. Terrell, cornerback, out of Clemson. Get a guy opposite Kendall Fuller that can really bolster that secondary that was badly beaten last season. A good trade back up into that first round pick. So AJ Terrell to Washington with my 30th pick. 31. We all have 3 different teams for this 31st pick. As part of the San Francisco 9 for 13 and 31 swap, this pick goes to Jacksonville. Jacksonville needs some help on the pass rush. A guy that's been, boosting up boards lately. Zach Bond from Wisconsin. could really help fill a void if and when Yannick Ngakoue leaves, and Calais Campbell also gone. They need some pass rush. Zach Bond, one of the better pass rushers left at this point in the draft, he goes here to 31. Chris, what you got?
I have Josh Jones going to the 49ers. Them losing Mike Person, they've lost someone on the offensive line. Need to get it right back. They need to do a little bit of just a little bit of revamping on the offensive line because they were second in the league in rushing yards per game. They need to be able to run the football and protect Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think that would be just a good pick for them. Good pick. Boost the offensive line a little bit. That helps the running game. That helps the passing game. Be a good pick right there.
Yep. All right. Okelo, what you got for 31?
So for my trade with this one, and I think the 49ers are going to trade, and here's a little pause, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay.
The Buccaneers will give up a third and a fifth round pick in order to move up to this. And I think, and I hope I don't get exalted a little bit because I know this year's corner draft has just been too good for me. And I feel like I wish I would have changed my mind, but I'm going to stick to my guns and say that the Buccaneers with the 31st pick get Jeff Gladney, and to help out solidify their secondary, in addition with the pick with C.J. Henderson, and get their secondary at least younger and a little bit better for Todd Bowles.
Okay, that's the second time you've picked a second corner for a second team.
I know, but I just feel like...
Not realistic, man.
I just feel like Todd Bowles is saying to Bruce Arians, I need help.
But that's two teams taking two corners in the first round.
Zach Bond would make a lot of sense there. I could see Tampa going back into the first round, maybe for a guy like Zach Bond. A Yetur Gross-Matos maybe makes sense if they go corner at 14. Look, Jeff Gladney is a great player. We both, Chris and I both have him 9 picks before this. So I think he's definitely worth a first round pick. I'm glad you inserted him in the first round, but just the wrong team. I don't see how that's possible that San Francisco makes all these moves and this is the result.
Like I said, I wish I maybe had time to maybe look back into the trade, but knowing this was a little too late. But it's just like I just know that Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles usually get defensive guys around this time. It's usually been their MO since Bruce and Todd work together in Arizona and stuff. And I just feel like he just needs that secondary help, and they got to get as much as they can get.
Yeah. All right. 32nd pick, Chris. This is your Seattle pick that Kansas City traded back to. Who did they get?
It's the same person that Okelo picked. It was Gross-Matos.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe he's going to be available at 27. I think he'll be available at 32. So I was like, trade back. That's why it was a no-brainer with that type of trade. Seattle gains a pick and still picks the person they probably want to get. Because the reason why I picked this
pick. It's a good day at the office.
The reason I picked this pick, I was going to... See, that's the thing. The person that the Chiefs picked was who I was going to actually have Seattle pick. I was actually going to have Seattle pick Greg Delpit, but after they traded for Quentin Dunbar, which in Pro Football Focus ranked as the second best corner in the entire league last year, when Seattle traded him for a 5th-round pick, I was like, wow, we just got Trey Flowers' replacement. Now the secondary is actually pretty good. And now a defensive end is more of a likely destination for us because we don't know what Clowney's doing, and we are kind of like a little thin up front. We only had 28 sacks last year, which really isn't good at all. That's really bad, actually. We've signed a couple of free agents. We brought Bruce Irvin back. Who's on the, and we signed 2 players that combined had 15.5 sacks last year. Mm-hmm. That's costing us $6 million total, 2 players. I think that's a steal, but I also think we need some more depth. I think getting Gross-Matos would be a big thing. And also, there are reports that say Everson Griffin is very interested in Seattle if Clowney doesn't sign back.
That makes so much sense.
If Clowney doesn't sign back, we might get Everson Griffin. So it's like so Seattle is in a situation with a pretty good situation.
I wish Houston would take a page out of that playbook. Be great.
It's like Seattle's in a good situation right now. They get Clowney, good. You can still get Gross Matos, boom, that's really good. Or if you don't get Clowney back, you can go sign Everson Griffin, which he's sitting right
To
there.
me, though,
nobody going after him.
I feel like
waiting.
if you get Everson Griffin, I feel like if you get Everson Griffin, maybe you get Yetur as well. But I feel like if you get Clowney, it kind of eclipses Gross Matos on that front seven.
I think it's like the reason why I think it'd be good is because the two, like everyone that we've signed is on 1 year contracts. They're 1 year rentals.
Right.
Gross Matos could be somebody that could be a rotational player year one, but when the next year comes and everyone else is free agents, he could step into the starting role for year two. Essentially.
Well said. All right. Okelo, last pick. We both have the same pick, so I'll let you say it out.
Right. The Kansas City Chiefs, with the 32nd pick, get the University of Georgia's DeAndre Swift. It's going to help them with their running back situation. I feel like as good as Damian Williams is, he's not that type of impact player that can help out more ascend Patrick Mahomes and give him that good enough balance. So DeAndre Swift is going to be with the defending world champions.
Yeah, I think Kansas City needs running back help. They need secondary help. Those are really the only two places of need for them. Running back like DeAndre Swift would take that absolute lethal offense just that much more lethal. So, yeah, that's it for our first round mock in a little over 2 hours. Not bad, guys. Thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I will post these to our Twitter and Instagram at Hitting the Field, so be sure to check it out there. You can also check out the Take Me Out to the podcast, our baseball-centered podcast with host Johnny Jackson. Talk to Jarrett Kappelman and Charlie Reyes a little bit about their baseball careers and their umpiring careers, and have a couple fun stories to tell. So be sure to check that out. We also have our HTF Ladies Show where we celebrate women in sports. That's coming out in a few days, so be sure to check that out as well. And with the draft just 20 days away, we'll be definitely having a lot more draft coverage here at HTF. So thank you guys for joining me. Chris Wolf, Okelo, thank you guys so much. We will catch y'all on the flip side.